Before the Smollett siblings became Hollywood royalty, they starred in a bizarre sitcom that mixed Mrs. Doubtfire with Party of Five, premiered a day after its drama twin got ripped apart by critics and still launched careers, while their mom built furniture by hand, and a crew member's tragic death inspired decades of activism. Fact 1. 6 real siblings played siblings. One of the most unusual aspects of On Our Own was that it featured 6 actual brothers and sisters playing fictional siblings on screen. Jazz, Jockey, Jake, JoJo, Journey, and Jussie Smollett all starred together as the Jericho Children, making this one of the rare sitcoms in television history where real-life siblings portrayed a family unit. The only cast member who wasn't part of the Smollett family was Ralph Lewis Harris, who played the eldest brother Josh Jericho and his drag alter ego, Aunt Jelcinda. The decision to cast all 6 Smollett siblings came about after the youngest sister, Journey, had already established herself as a child actor with a recurring role on Full House, where she played Michelle Tanner's best friend Denise. When ABC offered to develop a show specifically for Journey, the network decided to bring in her entire family, creating a unique opportunity for all the siblings to work together professionally. The show became a family affair in every sense, with the children ranging in age from the eldest sibling down to the youngest during production in 1994 and 1995. Having real siblings work together brought an authentic dynamic to the show that would have been difficult to replicate with unrelated child actors. The Smollett children had genuine chemistry and familiarity with each other that translated naturally on camera, even though they were portraying characters with different personalities and storylines. This casting choice reflected a broader trend in 1990s television of seeking authenticity and relatability in family sitcoms, though few shows took it to the extent of hiring an entire family of siblings to play themselves in a fictional context. Fact 2. Premiered one day after Party of Five. In one of the strangest coincidences in television history, On Our Own premiered on September 13, 1994, exactly one day after Fox launched Party of Five on September 12th. What made this timing even more bizarre was that both shows had essentially the same premise, following a group of siblings trying to keep their family together after losing both parents in a tragic car accident. The similarities were so striking that it seemed almost impossible for these two series to have been developed independently without anyone noticing the overlap. Party of Five took a dramatic approach to the story, focusing on 5 siblings in San Francisco dealing with grief, responsibility, and growing up too fast after their parents' death. On Our Own, meanwhile, was a sitcom that centered on 7 siblings in St. Louis, with the added twist of the eldest brother dressing in drag to fool social workers. Despite the different tones, the core concept remained remarkably similar, creating an awkward situation for both networks as they promoted their new fall shows. The timing raised questions about how 2 major networks could greenlight shows with such similar premises without either one reconsidering their approach. Television development typically happens months or even years in advance, meaning both ABC and Fox had committed significant resources to their respective shows before realizing they would be competing with nearly identical storylines. The fact that they premiered on consecutive nights only amplified the strange coincidence, making it impossible for viewers and critics not to compare the 2 series directly. While Party of Five went on to become a successful drama that ran for 6 seasons, On Our Own lasted only 1 season before cancellation. Fact 3. Party of Five feud at press tour. The awkward similarities between On Our Own and Party of Five didn't just raise eyebrows among television critics and viewers, they actually sparked a public confrontation between the creators of both shows during the 1994 network Summer Press Tour. David W. Duclon, who created On Our Own, and Amy Lipman, one of the producers behind Party of Five, ended up in a reported dispute over the nearly identical premises of their respective series, with tensions running high as both tried to promote their shows to journalists and entertainment reporters. The Summer Press Tour was an annual event where networks would showcase their upcoming fall lineup to critics and media representatives, giving producers and creators the opportunity to generate buzz and excitement for their new programs. However, instead of focusing purely on the unique qualities of their individual shows, Duclon and Lipman found themselves having to address the elephant in the room, which was the fact that both ABC and Fox were about to launch series centered on orphaned siblings dealing with the death of their parents in car accidents. The reported contention between the two became part of the behind-the-scenes drama surrounding both shows, adding an uncomfortable layer to what should have been a celebratory moment for new television series. While the specific details of their exchange weren't widely documented in entertainment press at the time, the fact that tensions boiled over publicly at such a major industry event demonstrated just how sensitive both parties were about the comparison. This kind of public friction between competing shows was relatively rare, making the situation even more memorable for those who attended the press tour. Fact 4. Mrs. Doubtfire copycat accusations. On Our Own faced immediate and harsh criticism from television reviewers who accused the show of blatantly copying the 1993 blockbuster film Mrs. Doubtfire, which had starred Robin Williams, as a father who disguises himself as a female housekeeper to spend time with his children. In On Our Own, the central premise of the first season involved Josh Jericho, the eldest brother, dressing up in full drag as a fictional character named Aunt Jelcinda, also called Mama J, to trick social workers into believing the orphaned siblings had an adult guardian who could keep them together as a family. The comparisons were unavoidable, as both stories revolved around a male character putting on makeup, wigs, and women's clothing to deceive authority figures, all in service of maintaining family bonds. Critics were particularly brutal in their reviews, with one television reviewer writing that the show's lead actor, Ralph Harris, couldn't challenge Robin Williams no matter how hard he tried. Another critic described the series as shamelessly calculated and blatantly derivative, pointing out that the producers appeared to be riding the coattails of Mrs. Doubtfire's massive theatrical success without bringing anything original to the concept. What made the accusation sting even more was the timing. As Mrs. Doubtfire had been released less than a year before, On Our Own premiered on television. The film was still fresh in audiences' minds, having become one of the highest-grossing movies of 1993 and cementing itself as a cultural phenomenon. Despite the show's creators insisting they had a totally different plot and context, the visual similarity of a man in drag playing a caretaker figure made it nearly impossible for viewers to see On Our Own as anything other than a television adaptation of Williams' beloved character. Fact 5. Massive mid-season retool after hiatus. In a desperate attempt to save the struggling series, On Our Own underwent a dramatic overhaul during a 3-month break from television. The show was pulled off the air in December of 1994 and didn't return until March of 1995, and when it came back, viewers discovered that nearly everything about the premise had been completely changed. The entire Aunt Jelcinda storyline, which had been the show's main gimmick, was eliminated entirely, with the writers explaining that Josh had been granted full legal custody of his younger siblings, meaning there was no longer any need for him to dress in drag to fool social workers. Along with dropping the cross-dressing element, the network also removed 2 major characters from the cast. Alana Michaels, the social worker played by Kimberly Cates, who had been helping the family keep their secret, was written out of the show completely, as was her boss, Mr. Gordon Ormsby, played by Roger Aaron Brown. In their place, the producers introduced a new character named Scotty Decker, portrayed by Takia Crystal Kima, who was a professional contractor that rented a room from the Jericho family in exchange for fixing up their home after rotted beams caused the bathroom tub to crash through the living room ceiling in her debut episode. The retool represented a fundamental shift in the show's tone and direction, moving away from the broad comedy of the drag disguise and toward more conventional family sitcom territory. However, despite these extensive changes and the network's efforts to reinvent the series, the modifications failed to improve ratings or critical reception. The show aired only 6 more episodes after returning from hiatus before ABC decided to cancel it permanently in April of 1995. Fact 6. First Miller Boyett Show. Made by Warner Brothers. On Our Own holds a unique place in television history, as the first sitcom produced by Miller Boyett Productions to be made entirely by Warner Brothers. Television from start to finish, Miller Boyett Productions was one of the most successful television production companies of the 1980s and 1990s, responsible for creating some of the most beloved family sitcoms in American television history, including Full House, Family Matters, Perfect Strangers, and Step by Step. For years, the company had worked exclusively with other studio partners, but On Our Own marked a significant shift in their business relationships. The production company was founded by Thomas L. Miller and Robert L. Boyett, and throughout most of their career, they had been based at Paramount Television, before moving to Lorimar Television in 1985. When Lorimar was eventually folded into Warner Brothers Television, in 1993, Miller and Boyett found themselves working under the Warner Brothers umbrella. On Our Own became their first project to be produced entirely within this new studio system, representing a milestone in the company's evolution and its relationship with the major television studios. This transition to Warner Brothers Television also involved partnerships with other production entities, including Lightkeeper Productions, which was owned by the show's creator, David W. Duclos, and DePass Entertainment, headed by Suzanne DePass, who also served as an executive producer on the series. The collaboration between these various production companies under the Warner Brothers banner demonstrated how complex television production had become by the mid-1990s, with multiple partners coming together to create a single show. Fact 7. House exterior recycled for Me Go after On Our Own was canceled in April of 1995. The exterior footage of the Jericho family home didn't disappear from television screens entirely. Instead, Miller Boyett Productions decided to recycle those same exterior shots for their 1997 science fiction sitcom called Me Go, which starred Bronson Pinchot as a 9,000-year-old alien who crash lands on Earth and becomes a nanny to 3 children. The strange part was that while On Our Own had been set in the O'Fallon Park neighborhood of St. Louis, Missouri, the new show Me Go was supposedly set in the greater Chicago area, creating a geographic inconsistency that went completely unaddressed. The exterior shots used for On Our Own had been filmed on location in a suburb of St. Louis, showing a distinctive house that viewers would have recognized if they had watched both series. Miller Boyett Productions simply reused this existing footage rather than filming new establishing shots for Me Go, which was a cost-saving measure that many television production companies employed during this era. Most of the recycled shots showed the same angle of the house that had appeared in On Our Own, though Me Go occasionally used views from the east side of the building to create slight variation. This practice of reusing exterior footage was fairly common in television production, especially for shows made by the same production company, as it helped reduce expenses and streamline the production process. However, it did create moments where observant viewers might have noticed the exact same house appearing in 2 completely different shows that were supposedly set in different cities hundreds of miles apart, adding an unintentional layer of strangeness to both series. Fact 8. Hot Links and Bagels. Breakfast tradition. During the filming of On Our Own, the 6 Smollett siblings developed a unique breakfast ritual that perfectly reflected their multicultural family background. Every morning before shooting began, the children would gather in their shared school trailer on the studio lot and eat hot links and bagels together, creating a daily routine that helped them bond as they worked long hours on set. Years later, when Jurnee Smollett spoke about this memory in an interview with the New York Times, she described the combination as very Black and Jewish of us, acknowledging how this unusual breakfast pairing represented both sides of their heritage. The Smollett family had a distinctive cultural background, with their father Joel being of Ashkenazi Jewish descent with roots in Russia and Poland, while their mother Janet was African American. This blending of traditions influenced many aspects of how the children were raised, including their food preferences and daily habits. Hot links, which are spicy sausages popular in African American cuisine, paired with bagels, a staple of Jewish food culture, created a breakfast that literally brought together both halves of their family identity on one plate. The fact that all 6 siblings shared the same school trailer also highlights how unusual their working situation was compared to most child actors who typically receive individual tutoring or separate educational arrangements on set. Having this communal space where they could eat breakfast together and attend school as a group helped maintain their close family bonds even while working in the demanding environment of television production. Jurnee later described the experience of working on the show with her siblings as like heaven, suggesting that these small, daily rituals contributed to making the entire experience positive despite the show's eventual cancellation. Fact 9. Parents built all their furniture. Before the Smollett siblings became television actors, their childhood was marked by constant relocation as the family moved 13 times across the United States, traveling back and forth between the East and West Coasts as their parents sought work and opportunities. During this nomadic period, their mother, Janet Smollett, developed an unusual but practical solution to furnishing each new home, choosing to build all of the family's furniture herself from scratch rather than purchasing ready-made pieces or trying to transport items from one residence to another. The centerpiece of Janet's handmade furniture collection was a large wooden kitchen table that became the heart of the Smollett household, no matter where they lived. Each time the family settled into a new home, Janet would spend 3 full days constructing a fresh butcher block table from planks of hardwood, sanding it down and varnishing it until it was smooth and ready for use. This ritual of building the table first before any other furniture or unpacking took place demonstrated how important family meals and togetherness were to the Smollett parents, even during financially difficult times when they had very little money. Janet didn't limit her woodworking to just tables. She also built beds, cribs, couches, toy boxes, and even a wooden slide that went in the middle of the children's bedroom. Her husband Joel would sometimes assist with the construction process, but according to the children, these projects were primarily Janet's creations and reflected her determination to provide a stable, comfortable home for her 6 kids despite the family's frequent moves and limited financial resources. The siblings later honored this tradition by co-authoring a cookbook titled The Family Table, which celebrated the meals and memories created around those handmade tables throughout their childhood. Fact 10. Crew members' AIDS death-inspired activism. A tragic event during the production of On Our Own had a profound and lasting impact on Jurnee Smollett's life, setting her on a path of activism that she continues to pursue decades later. When Jurnee was just 7 years old, a crew member who had been working on the show passed away from complications related to AIDS, marking the young actress's first personal encounter with a devastating disease that was still heavily stigmatized and misunderstood during the mid-1990s. This experience left such a deep impression on Jurnee that it inspired her to dedicate much of her life to HIV and AIDS awareness and advocacy work. She began getting involved in related causes when she was only 11 years old, remarkably young for someone to take on such serious activist work, but her early exposure to the disease's impact had clearly motivated her to make a difference. Over the years, Jurnee became increasingly involved with various organizations working to combat the HIV and AIDS epidemic, eventually joining the board of directors for Artists for a New South Africa, an organization specifically dedicated to addressing the HIV and AIDS crisis in African communities. Her commitment to this cause extended beyond just one organization, as she also worked with the Black AIDS Institute and the Red Cross on HIV and AIDS awareness campaigns. Jurnee was particularly inspired by Hidayah Broadbent, an HIV and AIDS survivor and activist, and the two eventually worked together on various awareness initiatives. She also spoke at the Ryan White Youth Conference, using her platform as an actress to bring attention to the ongoing need for education, prevention, and support for those affected by the disease, turning a painful childhood memory into a lifelong mission to help others. Fact 11. Never released on streaming or DVD. In an era where most classic television shows from the 1990s have been made available through streaming services or DVD collections, On Our Own remains curiously absent from all legal digital platforms and home video releases. despite the fact that the show featured 6 members of the Smollett family, several of whom went on to have successful acting careers, particularly Jurnee Smollett and Jussie Smollett. The series has never been officially released on DVD or picked up by any major streaming service like Netflix, Hulu, or Disney+, making it nearly impossible for modern audiences to watch the show through legitimate channels. The only time On Our Own resurfaced on television after its original 1994 to 1995 run was a brief period in 2007 when TV One, a cable network focused on African American programming, aired reruns of the series. However, this rebroadcast was short-lived and didn't lead to any permanent home for the show in syndication or on streaming platforms. The absence of any official release is particularly puzzling given the increasing public interest in the Smollett siblings over the years, especially as both Jurnee and Jussie achieved significant fame through projects like True Blood, Underground, and Empire. This lack of availability has created a situation where On Our Own exists primarily in the memories of those who watched it during its original broadcast, with only scattered unofficial recordings circulating online through sites like the Internet Archive. The reasons for the show remaining locked away are unclear, though it likely involves a combination of licensing complications, rights ownership issues between the various production companies involved, and perhaps a perception that there isn't sufficient commercial demand to justify the cost of securing and distributing the series. Fact 12. All character names start with J. The writers of On Our Own took the concept of an alliterative family to an extreme level by ensuring that absolutely every member of the Jericho household, living or deceased, had a name beginning with the letter J. The 7 siblings featured on the show were Josh, Jai, Jimmy, Jesse, Jorday, Jock, and Jerome, creating a tongue-twisting roster of J names that could easily confuse viewers trying to keep track of who was who in the large family. The naming convention didn't stop with the children who appeared on screen each week. The show's backstory established that the deceased parents were named Jared and Jasmine Jericho, maintaining the pattern even for characters who only existed in photographs and family memories. When Josh created his drag persona to fool social workers, he chose the name Aunt Jelcinda, also called Mama J, ensuring that even this fictional guardian figure fit into the family's alphabetical theme. Perhaps most amusingly, the family's pet bulldog was named Jinx, proving that the writers were committed to the gimmick down to the household pets. This naming choice mirrored a real-life tradition in the Smollett family, where all 6 children were given names starting with J, following in the footsteps of their parents, Joel and Janet. The decision to name all their children with the same initial letter was something Joel and Janet had established before the Kardashians and Jenners made it a cultural phenomenon, and the show's creators clearly decided to incorporate this distinctive family trait into the fictional Jericho family. The result was a sitcom where remembering character names required not only keeping track of 7 siblings, but also ensuring you could distinguish between Jai and Jesse, or Jimmy and Jock. Fact 13. Started on Sundays, moved to TGIF Fridays. On Our Own had an unusual broadcasting journey that saw the show switch time slots and nights during its brief run on ABC. When the series premiered in September of 1994, it aired on Sunday evenings at 7:30 Eastern and 6:30 Central Time, sharing the night with America's Funniest Home Videos rather than joining the network's famous TGIF Friday night comedy block that featured shows like Full House, Family Matters, and Step by Step. The decision to place On Our Own on Sunday nights seemed odd from the start, considering that the show was produced by Miller Boyett Productions, the same company behind most of the TGIF lineup, and seemed like a natural fit for the family-friendly Friday programming block. The show remained in the Sunday time slot throughout the fall of 1994 until it was pulled from the air in December for its major retooling. When On Our Own finally returned to television in March of 1995, after its 3-month hiatus, ABC made the decision to move it to what many considered its rightful home on Friday nights as part of TGIF. The new time slot placed On Our Own at 9:30 Eastern and 8:30 Central, directly following Step by Step in the TGIF schedule. This was considered a coveted position in television. Programming as TGIF had become one of the most successful blocks in ABC's history, drawing millions of viewers each week who tuned in for back-to-back family sitcoms. However, despite finally landing in the Friday night lineup where it seemed destined to belong, the scheduling change and retooled format failed to improve the show's ratings, and ABC canceled the series after just 6 more episodes. Fact 14. Journey's Full House role created the show. The entire concept for On Our Own originated from the success of the youngest Smollett sister, Journey, who had already established herself as a talented child actress before her siblings joined her on television. At just 4 years old, Journey landed a recurring role on the hit ABC sitcom Full House, where she played Denise Fraser, the best friend of Michelle Tanner, the character portrayed by Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen. Her performance on the show was so well received that ABC executives took notice and decided they wanted to develop a series specifically centered around the young actress. When ABC approached the Smollett family about creating a show for Journey, the network made the decision to incorporate all 6 of her siblings into the project rather than featuring her as a solo star. This choice transformed what could have been a typical child actor vehicle into something much more unique. A family sitcom that actually starred an entire family of real siblings. The show that emerged from this development process became On Our Own, which premiered in 1994, the same year that Full House ended its 8-season run on ABC. Journey's brother, Jussie, later described his sister at 1 year old as being like a mix of Diana Ross and Elizabeth Taylor, noting that she was boss from the beginning, suggesting that her natural charisma and screen presence had been evident from an extremely early age. Her ability to secure a prominent role on one of television's most popular sitcoms while still in preschool demonstrated remarkable talent and opened doors not just for herself but for her entire family, giving all 6 Smollett siblings the opportunity to work together professionally during their childhood years. Fact 15. Siblings raised to reject conflict. One of the most remarkable aspects of having 6 real siblings work together on a television show was that the Smollett children reportedly never fought with each other during the production of On Our Own, despite spending long hours together on set each day. This unusual harmony wasn't accidental, but rather the result of a deliberate parenting philosophy that Joel and Janet Smollett had instilled in their children from a very young age, teaching them to actively reject conflict and view arguments as unproductive and wasteful. In a September 1994 interview with the Los Angeles Times, JoJo Smollett addressed the surprise that people expressed about how well the siblings got along, saying that people found it amazing, but explaining that they had been brought up to reject conflict and believed that fighting and arguing was simply a waste of time. This mindset was particularly impressive given the challenging circumstances of child acting, where exhaustion, competition for screen time, and the pressures of memorizing lines and hitting marks could easily lead to tension and disagreements between young performers. The fact that the parents managed to raise 6 children who maintained this level of cooperation and mutual respect speaks to the strength of the family's values and the consistency with which Joel and Janet enforced their principles. While many families with multiple children struggle with sibling rivalry and petty disputes even in normal home environments, the Smollett siblings managed to avoid these common conflicts while working in the high-stress environment of television production. Their ability to support each other rather than compete created a positive working atmosphere that likely contributed to making their time on Our Own a pleasant experience, even if the show itself was short-lived and struggled to find its audience.